career of public service, what this moment means and why your work as young elected leaders is so important. Uh, she is a friend to so many of us. She is a surrogate sister to so many. For the younger YEOs, she's a surrogate auntie. But she is an incredible and brilliant public servant. And so we are very excited to introduce an incredible YEO alumna and the 47th mayor of the great city of St. Louis, Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ms. Tishaura Jones.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Marcus. I got to give a quick shout out to Marcus for sliding in my DMs. That's exactly how this happened. Last week, he slid in my DMs and he was like, "Can you come and talk to us?" I'm like, "Sure, absolutely." So, how y'all doing? It's great to be home. And when I say home, I mean YEO. This was my first conference when I became a legislator back in 2009. And the city was Atlanta, Georgia. And it was my first conference as a young-ish elected official. And it was it was right here. I was 35 years old. Yes, I still look 35. And I was finishing up my first session in the legislature. And I felt like I wasn't ready yet to go to the adult conferences. And so I pleaded with People for the American Way. And I said, "Please, can I come? I know I've aged out, but please, can I come?" And they were like, "Yes, come on." And it was the best decision I ever made. The best decision, because the things that I learned and the people that I connected with, many of them are still my friends to this very day. And they went on to do great things. YEO builds a pipeline for our future mayors, governors, attorneys general, cabinet secretaries. The list goes on and on. So let's take a moment to give YEO a round of applause for building such a wonderful pipeline. So picture this. It's Inauguration Day in the legislature, and my then 15-month-old son and I are walking towards the elevator. Well, I'm carrying him because he was a 15-pound turkey. The halls are bustling with people and activity, and we rush to get to the elevator, and right before the door closes. And the elevator is packed with people, and there's this older gentleman who looks at me and he says, "Hi, is your husband being sworn in today?" And I swear I heard my late grandmother in my head saying, "Fool, don't you see this legislative pin on my lapel? That means I'm being sworn in today." But I didn't say that. I just winked and politely nodded and said, "No, I am." And that was the first of many experiences where I was mistaken for a legislative aide or an intern. I'm pretty sure many of you have that story as well. And it is sexism and ageism at its finest. But let me tell you one thing. I wouldn't trade that experience or any of my experiences for the world. All of my prior experiences made me who I am today. And when I look at this room, I see the promise of Black and brown futures, of LGBTQ futures, of working class futures, of immigrant futures. I see our fight. I see our future. And you see, our fight didn't start when we got elected, didn't start when we filed the paperwork, gave our first speeches, or knocked on that first door. No, our fight is older than that. Our fight started when our ancestors were denied the right to read and still taught themselves, when Black women ran freedom schools out of kitchens, when teachers paid for their students' lunches and school supplies out of their own pockets, when trans youth organized mutual aid when the government looked the other way. Our fight is the inheritance we carry with pride and with pain. You know what I'm talking about. Every time we push for change, we're told to wait, to compromise, to be less divisive. But the truth is, when you are a young leader, your existence in these spaces is already a disruption. So don't apologize for it. Own it, embrace it, fill up the entire room with it. They told me to wait before I ran for city treasurer back in 2012. I didn't. They told me to wait before I ran for mayor. I still didn't. And they told me that holistic crime reduction strategies and police accountability can't coexist. They were wrong, because I reduced homicides by over 40% in 4 years and improved relations with the community, leading to a 75% closure rate for violent crime. They told me to wait before introducing anti-poverty programs like guaranteed basic income and educational savings accounts. I didn't, because our communities can't wait, and neither should you. You are the now of this great experiment that we call democracy. You're not just preparing for the future, you are the future. And when you fight for equity, when you fight for economic and environmental justice, when you fight for our unhoused neighbors, you are fighting for our future. And let me say this loud and clear. You cannot represent what you cannot name. So say it. Say Black Lives Matter when you're on the dais. Say abolish the school to prison pipeline in your school board meetings. Say queer and trans youth deserve safety. Say our immigrant communities deserve to be protected. Say capitalism is harming our people. Say all of it, and say it with your whole chest. Because every time we name what others are trying to erase, we're building power, and we're letting our people know that you are not alone. Now, I won't lie to you. This work will test your spirit and make you want to cuss someone out on a daily basis. You will lose friends. You will face attacks, some subtle, some vicious. You'll be underestimated, misquoted, and sometimes betrayed by the very folks you tried to help. I've been there. And yes, it hurts. But I stayed. Not because I'm a superhero, even though many people think that Black women are superheroes. We got to shed that, but that's another story for another day. But because I stayed because I had people. I had a sisterhood of friends who reminded me who I am and whose I am. I had a staff that protected my peace like it was policy. And I had a family that said, "We got you, girl. Come on over and get a plate." So find your people, find your tribe, build your village, because you don't have to do this work alone. Create your circle, your kitchen cabinet, your prayer warriors, your accountability partners, and take care of each other like your freedom depends on it, because it does. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about what's happening in our nation right now, because we're in the middle of a fight. Book bans, rolling back reproductive rights, voter suppression, anti-trans legislation spreading like wildfire, ICE raids and deportations, politicians using fear as a weapon, and entire communities being scapegoated just to win elections. We are watching democracy bend under the weight of lies, greed, and white supremacy. And some days it feels like the ground is shifting beneath our feet. But hear me, this is exactly why we keep fighting. Because when the federal government stalls, or worse, turns its back on us, local leadership becomes the front line of justice. When the state government starts acting a fool like they do in Missouri, when they passed a bill to take over our local police department. And when they do things like that, local leadership becomes the front line of the battle. You're not just elected officials. You are the protectors of dignity. You're the ones making sure our students still learn the entire truth about this country. You're the ones keeping LGBTQ youth safe in our schools. You're the ones holding the line when higher levels of government fail us. You are the Avengers banding together to fight Thanos in Endgame. Any Marvel people in the audience? Your leadership is the resistance. Your decisions are the safeguard, and your courage is the antidote. And let me tell you something else. We've been here before. Our elders and ancestors fought for civil rights while being brutalized and beaten. They protested during war, during recession, during backlash, and yet they still rose. So don't let the noise scare you into silence. Let it sharpen your purpose. Right now, DEI is under a coordinated attack across this country. And what began as a movement to acknowledge and address systemic inequities is now being vilified as divisive or unnecessary. But we know better. But in the past 100 days, we've seen the Trump administration dismantling federal DEI programs, replacing them with so-called merit-based systems that ignore history. States like Indiana and Missouri eliminating DEI initiatives, and public institutions rebranding them under the terms merit, excellence, and innovation, whatever the hell that means, and trying to sidestep equity-focused efforts. And major corporations like Target scaling back or eliminating DEI commitments due to political pressure, despite previous pledges to foster inclusive workspaces. But here's the truth. DEI isn't a buzzword, and according to Mayor Brandon Scott, it means duly elected incumbent. It's ensuring that every individual, regardless of their skin color, who they love, how they worship, has a seat at the table. And we must stand firm. We must continue to implement and advocate for DEI initiatives in our schools, our city councils, our boards and commissions, and yes, our communities. Because when we prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, we build stronger, more resilient communities for everyone. But let's talk about another threat we face every single day: misinformation. It's not just a nuisance, it's a weapon. And in the wrong hands, it becomes a tool to destabilize trust, distort reality, and divide communities. We saw it on January 6th with the insurrections and the election denial lies. And we saw it in campaigns attacking schools, falsely labeling books and teachers as indoctrinators and for simply telling the truth about the history of this country. And I saw it in my own recent reelection. Fake headlines, AI-generated videos, conspiracy theories that drowned out the real policy debates with manufactured outrage. Many of you know that I recently lost my bid for re-election last month. St. Louis has had 3 Black mayors, including myself, and not one has been re-elected. So let that sit with you for a moment. My opponent won on a campaign centered around potholes, trash, and snow removal. She thrived on fear and misinformation. Sound familiar? No one gave me credit for reducing crime to historic lows and investing in communities that have been neglected for decades. No one cared that I brought back hundreds of millions of dollars in federal grants for housing, infrastructure, and economic development. No one went to jail in my administration, and none of that mattered because I was painted as corrupt, inept, and too ambitious. That's what's so dangerous about misinformation. It moves faster than the truth. A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put its pants on. And misinformation is loud, and it's emotional, and it's designed to be easy to believe when you already feel ignored. But here's what I need you to remember. You are the trusted voice in your community. You are closer to the people than any other senator or governor, and your voice carries weight. So use it. Be transparent. Communicate often. Meet people where they are on social media, churches, barbershops, and in school gyms. Help your community separate fact from fiction. Don't just push back against the lies. Build up the truth. Because we can't let misinformation scare us into silence. We must meet it with clarity, courage, and community, because when the truth disappears, so does our democracy. You already know this, but let me say it again for the folks in the back. Local government is where the rubber meets the road and the real change happens. Presidents and governors may give speeches, but you decide whether that intersection gets remodeled so streets are safer for everyone, no matter how they choose to get around. You decide if the history taught in your district reflects the truth. You may not have cameras or the ink, but you decide if a developer gets to build luxury apartments with a percentage dedicated to workforce or affordable housing. Now, I want you to hear me on this. What's possible changes when you show up. When you govern with love and compassion, with authenticity and the audacity of your ancestors, people begin to imagine something different. They start to believe that maybe their vote matters, that politics isn't just for the rich and connected, that justice is not just a slogan. And you, all of you in this room, are showing them every single day. So what now? Now is the time to move boldly and unapologetically be who you are. Dream bigger, organize smarter, run for re-election and for higher office. Mentor the next class of leaders coming up behind you. Share your wins and your mistakes. Be honest, be accountable, and be revolutionary in your transparency. And never, ever forget who sent you. You weren't sent here to be neutral. You were sent here to be powerful. You were sent here to be faithful. You were sent here to be free and to help free others. Thank you all, and God bless.
Let's give another round of applause for Mayor Jones.